Tell me if this sounds familiar. You raise a kid alone, work doubles, pay for his law degree, and one day he manages your life like your furniture. I'm 68, born in Cleveland, and I raised a lawyer the city adores. On TV he's the ethical attorney. Off camera, he grabbed my arm and called me confused. Tonight I'm done being polite. I have dates, documents, and a doorbell video. If you think not my family, watch. My name is Helen Ward, 68, from South Collinwood, Cleveland. I raised my son Jason alone, double shifts at the plant, night classes at Tri-C, and a second mortgage so he could finish Ohio State law without a dollar of debt. Now he's a partner at Barris & Cole LLP, the man local TV calls the ethical face of litigation. On his birthday I brought the same chocolate frosted cake I'd baked since he was 10. Cameras clicked. He slipped an arm around me, smiling for his friends. Then, low enough for only me. Mom, try not to ramble when guests ask questions. It makes you look scattered. Laughter from the kitchen followed. I smiled through it. Later he told me he'd moved my online banking, for convenience, rerouted my mail, to protect against scams, and added himself to my homeowner's policy, for liability. When I protested, he kissed my hair. You handled things for years, he said. Let me be the adult now. At first, Jason's help felt like care. He paid the electric bill before I even noticed the envelope, fixed the leaky faucet, and told neighbors, I just want mom safe. Everyone thought I was lucky. I thought so too, until the rules began. No visitors after 6, he said. You get tired, and people take advantage. No cash in the house, too risky. Groceries had to be pre-approved. You buy nonsense, snacks, candles, things you don't need. He came by every other day, uninvited. Walked through rooms with his phone camera on, snapping photos like an inspector. This rug will trip you. He rolled it up and left with it. These shelves are a hazard. Gone. These photos are clutter. The family frames disappeared into his trunk. If I asked where he put them, he'd smile. In storage, Mom. Simplifying your life. I told myself it was love in a strange form, his way of showing control because he cared. That illusion didn't last long. One evening, I was watching the local news when he let himself in with his spare key. Why's the door locked? He asked, annoyed. Because it's night, I said. He laughed. Don't get paranoid. He started using words like confused, forgetful, unsafe. Said them casually in front of neighbors or at church. Mom's still sharp, he'd add, but the damage stuck. People began treating me like a child. At St. Jerome's Fish Fry, he introduced me as my queen, kissed my cheek, then tapped my elbow when I answered slowly to someone's question. She rambles sometimes, he joked. Laughter around the table. I laughed too, because the other choice was crying. At home, that charm disappeared. His tone changed to clipped commands. Sit. Stop moving when I'm talking. Why do you make simple things hard? Once, when I refused to hand him my checkbook, he grabbed my wrist, not enough to leave a visible mark, but firm, controlling. I'm not your enemy, he said. You just can't handle details anymore. The next day I had a faint bruise. I covered it with makeup before going to church. The pattern grew quietly. Each favor erased something of mine. My independence shrank inch by inch. He changed my doctor appointment to someone who understands seniors better. He canceled my credit card to prevent fraud. He replaced my phone with a new one, simpler to use. All my contacts were gone except his. He took over my passwords to help reset them. My email started going through his account. I didn't notice until the pharmacy called asking if I'd changed my address to his office. When I asked, he smiled like I was a child. Yes, Mom. It's called efficiency. You're welcome. There was no fight to win. Everything happened in small, polite pieces. Then he began showing up late, checking my fridge. Why so many leftovers? Are you eating? Yes. Prove it. He'd lift plates, inspect dates on containers. Once he threw away a full pot of soup because it was unsafe. I realized then it wasn't about safety. It was about control. I stopped inviting friends over because he criticized them. Carmen's nosy. Mabel talks too loud. He said I needed peace, but what he really meant was isolation. The first time he shoved me was subtle. I was reaching for my purse when he said, "You don't need that anymore." I said, "It's mine." He grabbed my shoulder, pushed me gently but firmly into the chair. Sit before you fall. It sounded caring. It wasn't. The second time, there was no excuse. I was trying to take out the trash. He blocked the door, said it was icy. I said I could handle it. He snatched the bag from me and pushed me backward with enough force that I had to grab the table to steady myself. Stop being dramatic, he said. I wanted to tell someone. But what would I say? That my successful son, an attorney, a man people praised on television, was slowly turning my life into a cage? Every sign looked like care on paper. That's how abusers operate, they hide behind good intentions. He spoke softly around others, used words like concern, structure, routine. When I tried to object, he'd lower his voice and say, "Mom, you're confused again. Don't make a scene." That sentence always froze me. I hated the doubt it planted. What if he was right? Maybe I was getting confused. Maybe I really did need help. But at night, sitting in my quiet house, I'd look at the empty shelves, the missing photos, the rug he took away, the drawers he rearranged. And I knew this wasn't confusion. It was theft, just not of money yet. It was theft of dignity. The moment that broke me came one Saturday morning. He was in the kitchen, pacing, talking on his Bluetooth headset about some client. When he hung up, he looked at me and said, "Mom, we need to have a serious talk. You're not capable of managing things anymore. It's embarrassing when you ask basic questions. I'm thinking about filing for guardianship before something happens." I asked, "Something like what?" He said, "Like you signing the wrong paper, or getting scammed. Or dying alone because you refused help." He said it like he was reading a closing argument. Cold. Practiced. After he left, I sat at the table and wrote one sentence in my notebook. He wants power, not peace. That night, I opened my old photo album and found the last picture of us before everything changed. Me at his law school graduation, smiling with pride. I stared at it until the tears came, not for him, but for the version of him I'd believed in. By then, I understood. The mask had slipped. And the face underneath wasn't my son's anymore, it was a man who saw me as property. When Jason stopped getting what he wanted through words, he switched to paperwork. No shouting, no threats, just folders, signatures, and long explanations I wasn't supposed to understand. He arrived one morning with his briefcase and a cup of coffee, like we had a business meeting instead of breakfast. "I drafted something to make your life easier," he said, sliding a printed document across the table. Care agreement. His firm's letterhead on top, Barris & Cole LLP. "It just formalizes what we already do," he said. "You'll contribute your pension to a joint account. I'll handle bills, maintenance, taxes. You relax." I skimmed the first lines. "Contribute monthly pension to centralized household account managed by Jason Ward for the benefit of both parties." Both parties. "Jason, that's my pension," I said. He smiled the way lawyers smile when they've already decided the outcome. "Technically, yes. But you'll still live exactly the same. This just prevents confusion if, God forbid, something happens to you." He pushed a pen toward me. "It's for your protection." I didn't sign. I told him I wanted to read it carefully. His smile vanished for half a second, then came back polished. "Of course. Take your time, Mom. I'll leave it here." The folder stayed on my table for a week. I hid it inside an old cookbook so I wouldn't have to see it. The next visit, he brought a new stack, Home Safety Addendum. "This one's straightforward," he said. "A few lifestyle adjustments to reduce risk." The list was 3 pages long. No space heaters, no open candles, no overnight guests, no unscheduled access to the property by relatives or friends. "I don't understand this part," I said, pointing at the line about visitors. "It's about liability," he said. "If someone trips on your porch, you get sued. This protects you." He'd always been good at sounding rational. That was his gift, and my weakness. Still, I told him no. I like my life the way it is. He leaned back, sighing. "Mom, you've always been stubborn. You can't keep living like it's 1990. Times have changed." That evening, he called again. His tone was polite but cold. "I need you to understand something, Mom. These are best practices. This is how responsible people handle aging." That word, aging, hung between us. He made it sound like a diagnosis. Then came the real plan. He showed up one Saturday in a suit, the kind he wore on TV when talking about corporate ethics. He placed a manila folder on the table and said, "This one solves everything: taxes, inheritance, liability." I opened it. The heading read, Lakeview Maple LLC, Temporary Property Transfer Agreement. "What's this?" I asked. He straightened his tie. "It's a rent-back plan. Totally standard. The company, mine, temporarily holds title to your house for tax sheltering. You stay here forever as a lifetime tenant. You'll even get a maintenance allowance." He spoke in smooth sentences, rehearsed like a presentation. "You'll never have to worry about property taxes again," he said. "If something happens, the title's already secure. It keeps probate clean." I flipped to the last page. It said I would pay a monthly maintenance fee, basically rent, to his LLC. So, I'd be renting my own home? I asked. "Technically, no," he said, tapping the page. "You'd be maintaining the property. Ownership's just on paper, and the paper belongs to you." "Mom," he said softly, "trust me. You're overthinking." I looked at him, expensive watch, confident posture, that easy lawyer's grin, and for the first time in my life, I didn't see my son. I saw a man who treated me like a client too slow to understand the fine print. He leaned closer. "If you sign, we'll both sleep better. You'll never have to deal with bills again." "I don't mind my bills," I said. "They remind me the house is still mine." He exhaled sharply, rubbed his temples. "You're making this harder than it has to be." I slid the papers back. "I'm not signing anything today." His jaw tightened. "You don't trust me?" "I trust you," I said. "I just don't sign things I don't understand." He chuckled, short, bitter. "You don't understand because you refuse to listen." The rest of the visit was silent. He left the papers on the counter, just in case I changed my mind. I didn't touch them. Over the next week, he kept calling. "Have you signed? Did you look it over?" "Mom, this delay complicates taxes." Each time, I said no. Each time, he sighed a little louder. Then one morning, he showed up unannounced again. "I'm not here to argue," he said. "Just to check that you're okay." But as soon as he stepped inside, he went straight to the table where the folder had been. "Where are the documents?" I put them away. He looked at me for a long time, no smile this time, no charm. Just that cold, professional face I'd seen on news interviews. "You're playing with fire, Mom." "I'm protecting myself." He stepped closer. "From who?" I didn't answer. He exhaled through his nose, picked up his coat, and said quietly, "You wouldn't have that roof without me." The sentence hit harder than any shove. It was the moment I stopped thinking he was confused, or overworked, or just trying to help. That was the moment I understood exactly what he believed, that everything in my life, my house, my pension, even my peace, was his to manage. After that day, things changed. Not all at once, but in small, ugly ways you don't notice until you realize you're scared inside your own house. Jason stopped pretending to ask. He started telling. He took my spare keys, for safety. He opened my mail before handing it to me. He installed cameras on the porch, to monitor deliveries, but the feed went straight to his phone. When I told him I didn't want cameras, he said, "You should thank me for caring." "Do you know how many seniors get robbed?" I said I wasn't afraid of robbers. He said, "You should be afraid of yourself." He began using new phrases: guardianship, competency review, power of attorney. I'd hear them sprinkled into conversation like bait. "Mom, if something happens, courts might appoint a stranger. Don't you want me making decisions for you?" Each time, I gave the same answer: I make my own. He didn't like that. The first crack came one cold morning in February. I was bringing out trash when my foot slipped on slush by the back steps. I fell hard enough to scrape my knee and bruise my shoulder. At Euclid Hospital, a nurse named Dana cleaned the wound, gentle but focused. "You're lucky it's just a scrape," she said. Then she looked at my arm. "How did you get these bruises?" I looked down, yellow marks, shaped like fingers. "I bruise easy," I said automatically. She didn't argue. She just nodded, took quiet photos with a small digital camera, and typed into her chart. Later, I saw her step out of the room, whisper something to another nurse, and hand her a form. I didn't know it then, but she'd filed an Adult Protective Services note. 2 days later, my neighbor Carmen Alvarez knocked on my door. She's lived next to me for 20 years, the kind who brings soup when you're sick. She looked nervous. Helen, she said, I need to show you something. Don't get upset. She turned her phone around, a video from her doorbell camera. The image was grainy but clear enough. Jason standing on my porch, gripping my arm while I tried to pull back. No sound, but you could see my face, tight, scared. Carmen said softly, this was last week. My son saw it when he was helping me set up the motion alerts. He works in IT at the county prosecutor's office. He said to save it, it's time-stamped. I couldn't breathe for a second. Watching it felt like seeing someone else's life. I'd convinced myself the pushes, the grabs, were just frustration. But there it was, proof. Can you send that to me? I asked. Already did, she said. And Helen, please don't let him come here alone again. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the table with my laptop open, playing the clip over and over. Each time, my stomach tightened. I saw how easily he moved me, how used to it I looked. The next morning, Jason called. Mom, are you still upset about the paperwork? I don't want to talk about it. Then we'll do this the legal way. I'm filing for guardianship next week. Don't embarrass yourself fighting it. I didn't answer. Mom, he said, voice dropping, you're acting irrational. This could go smoother if you just cooperate. Then he hung up. 10 minutes later, another voicemail came. Greater than, if you don't pick up, I'll assume you're incompetent and take steps. Don't make me do that. I saved it. That was the moment fear turned into resolve. I put on my coat, walked to First Federal Credit Union, and asked to see Mr. Patel, the manager who'd known me since my teaching days. He smiled when he saw me. Ms. Ward, it's been a while. Yes, I said, because my son's been handling things. His expression changed. Handling what? I handed him my ID. Can you print my statements for the past year? He did. The pages came out thick, still warm from the printer. I scanned the lines. Lakeview Maple LLC. Household consolidation. Maintenance adjustment. Every transaction tied to his company. Tens of thousands of dollars. Gone. I pointed at one entry. Who authorized that? He looked at the signature. Not you. My throat tightened. Can you prove it? He nodded. If you make a report. Bring the police a copy, we'll cooperate fully. He printed duplicates and stapled them. Be careful, he said. People like him know how to spin a story. I walked home clutching the papers in a grocery bag like they were made of glass. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. That evening, Jason came again. Knocked once, hard. Mom, open the door. I'm resting, I said through the wood. I need to check on you. No. He tried the knob. Locked. He slammed his hand against the door. Stop being dramatic. Then silence. I heard him mutter something, ungrateful, before his car started. I stood there, heart pounding, then walked to the table and spread everything out, the bank statements, the voicemail transcriptions, the screenshot of Carmen's video. I started a notebook. Date. Time. What he said. How I felt. I didn't call it a diary. It was evidence. The next morning, I took the bus to the 5th District Police Station on East 152nd. My palms were sweaty, my knees unsteady, but I did it anyway. At the front desk, a young officer asked, "How can I help you, ma'am?" I said, "I think my son is stealing from me." He blinked. "Your son?" "Yes. He's an attorney." They led me to a small interview room. A detective introduced himself, Avery Lang. Calm voice, steady eyes. "Start from the top," he said. I showed him the papers, the bank statements, the video, the bruises, the voicemail. He took his time, organizing everything into a folder. When I finished, he said quietly, "You did the right thing. We don't need emotions, we need documentation. Keep every message, every visit, every transfer." He gave me his card and said a prosecutor named Morales would review the case. "Don't argue with him again," he said. "If he comes back, call us first. Do not open the door." I nodded. Outside, the air felt sharper, cleaner. I walked home slower than usual, not because I was tired, but because for the first time in months, I wasn't lying to myself. Jason had turned love into paperwork, but now I had paperwork too. Not promises. Proof. Detective Lang called 2 days later. His tone was steady, professional, the kind you hear from people who've seen too much to be surprised anymore. "Ms. Ward, we've reviewed the materials. We'll need to formalize your statement. Bring your documents, all of them. And don't contact your son. I took the bus downtown with a grocery bag full of folders. Inside were printed bank statements, a copy of Carmen's video, a list of call times, and my small notebook. At the 5th District, they led me into a small conference room. Lang was there with an assistant prosecutor named Morales, a serious man in his 30s with tired eyes. He began by saying, "We're not here to take sides. We're here to confirm evidence." "That's all I want," I said. They went through everything, date by date, transaction by transaction. Lang circled each transfer to Lakeview Maple LLC in red ink. "Same entity, same account routing," he said. "He's moving your pension funds into his shell company." Morales added, "It's enough to start a financial exploitation case, maybe more. But we'll need a controlled setup, a meeting where he acts on record." I asked what that meant. "Get him talking," Lang said. "Let him show who he is. Don't argue, just record." He handed me a small digital recorder and explained how to keep it in my pocket, running during any conversation. "We build with receipts, not feelings," he reminded me. "Keep it factual. Time, date, words." I left the station feeling like a witness to my own life. Over the next week, Jason kept calling. Same tone, calm, confident, rehearsed. "Mom, you're making things worse. The paperwork protects you." "I'm fine," I said. "No, you're not. You're being manipulated by people who don't understand family." "I'm documenting everything," I said before hanging up. That one line seemed to shake him. He stopped calling for 3 days. Then, on Thursday, he texted. "Greater than let's meet somewhere neutral. I'll bring the revised paperwork. You'll see I'm right." Lang said, "Agree. Record everything." We chose the public library on East 185th Street. Bright place, cameras everywhere, quiet. Lang would be nearby with Morales, just in case. That morning, I sat at my kitchen table, heart racing. I'd lived 68 years, worked 2 jobs, buried my husband, paid for Jason's degree, and now I was preparing to trap my own son. He arrived exactly on time, wearing his gray suit, smelling like cologne and confidence. "Mom," he said, "you look nervous." "Just tired," I said. We sat at a corner table near the window. 2 witnesses from the city's legal aid office were present, pretending to read. I had my recorder in my jacket pocket, already running. Jason opened his briefcase. "Okay," he said cheerfully. "Let's finish this once and for all." He slid a document across, occupancy addendum. "This one's simple," he said. "You remain in the house, rent-free technically, but you'll contribute a maintenance fee of $1,750 a month to Lakeview Maple LLC. That covers property upkeep, taxes, utilities. In exchange, I handle all legal exposure." I read line by line. Near the bottom, one clause stood out, medical decision authority delegated to Jason Ward. "What's this?" I asked. "Standard language," he said smoothly. "Why would you need that authority?" "In case you can't make decisions. I'm just covering all bases." His voice was steady, his hand resting lightly on my shoulder, just long enough to look affectionate, just tight enough to hurt. "Stop performing, Mom. Pen down, signature here." Before I could answer, the door opened. 2 men walked in, Lang and Morales, both calm, both professional. Lang said quietly, "Jason Ward?" Jason looked up, confused. "Yes? Detective Lang, 5th District. You're under arrest for domestic violence, coercion, attempted unlawful guardianship by fraud, and financial exploitation of an elder." Jason blinked, frozen. "You can't be serious." Lang read him his rights while Morales collected the documents. He turned to me. "You did this to your own son?" he asked, disbelief twisting his face. "No," I said, voice steady. "You did." At the station later, Lang explained what would happen. "The county prosecutor from Summit will handle it. Conflict of interest, he's too connected here. They'll take the case within 48 hours. Will he go to jail?" I asked. "That depends on the plea. What matters now is you're safe." He gave me a packet of victim support resources, numbers for protective services, and forms for a restraining order. I went home that evening, sat on my porch, and looked at the same marigolds Jason once called clutter. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels earned. Inside, I laid out every piece of paper again, bank transfers, voicemails, copies of the addendum, and the recording log. Everything labeled, dated, clear. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like proof that I hadn't imagined the slow theft of my life. Lang's words echoed in my head. We build with receipts, not feelings. That night, I wrote one line in my notebook. He took my trust. I took evidence. The arrest made the local news before dinner. Prominent attorney charged in elder exploitation case, the anchor said with practiced sympathy. Jason's photo appeared, polished suit, confident smile. The same face I used to see on my refrigerator calendar every December. I sat on the couch and watched them list the charges: forgery, coercion, domestic violence, attempted unlawful guardianship by fraud, and financial exploitation of an elder. They used the word elder like a category, not a person. But it was me. The phone started ringing before the segment ended. Reporters, former neighbors, someone from his firm wanting a comment. I unplugged the line. Across the street, a car parked with its lights off. Two men inside with cameras. They stayed for hours. One of them took photos when I stepped out to bring in the mail. The next morning, my face was in the paper. A grainy shot captioned, "Mother at the center of Ward case." The story called it, "A tragic family misunderstanding." His firm's statement said Jason had always demonstrated professionalism and deep care for his mother. Deep care. That phrase almost made me laugh. Detective Lang came by to check on me the next day. "You'll see noise for a few days," he said. "Then it'll fade. Media loves scandal more than justice." He handed me a paper to sign, consent for evidence release to the special prosecutor in Summit County. "Any contact from him?" he asked. "No," I said, "and there won't be. He's not allowed within 300 feet. Lang nodded. "Good. Keep it that way." He looked around the living room, bare walls, no photos, the spaces Jason had emptied. "You thinking about putting them back up?" "Not yet," I said. "I like seeing what's missing. Reminds me what's real." The court process moved faster than I expected. The Bar Association suspended him pending discipline. His firm took his name off their website within a week. The commercials where he talked about integrity disappeared. The special prosecutor called me twice to confirm details, dates, signatures, bank transfers. "Your documentation is airtight," he said. "That's rare." He explained the plea structure they were negotiating. I didn't care about the technical terms. I wanted guarantees. I told him, prison doesn't fix people like him. Paper does. He understood. At the hearing, I sat in the back row. Jason entered in a gray suit, no tie, no smile. His lawyer did most of the talking. He didn't look at me. The prosecutor read the plea terms aloud. Guilty to attempted coercion and domestic violence, misdemeanor. All other counts dismissed but facts stipulated in the record. 5-year civil protection order, he can't contact or approach me. Restitution of $128,400 for the funds he transferred. Monthly support payments for housing and utilities, enforceable by wage garnishment. Mandatory anger management and elder abuse education. Bar suspension pending review. When the judge asked if I had anything to say, I stood up. My hands didn't shake. "I don't want revenge," I said. "I want distance, and I want paper strong enough to keep it." The judge nodded. "You'll have both." Jason never spoke. He just stared at the floor like he was waiting for someone to tell him this was all a misunderstanding. After the hearing, I walked outside. The air smelled like snow. Reporters shouted questions, but I kept walking until I reached the bus stop. A woman in her 50s sitting beside me whispered, "Good for you." My brother did something like that to our mother. She never spoke up. I just nodded. It was enough. Back home, I cleaned the kitchen, my kitchen again. I made tea, sorted my medication, checked my blood pressure. The doctor calls it stress-induced arrhythmia. I call it recovery. I still keep every document labeled in a binder: transfers, voicemails, police reports, court orders. I check it once a week, not because I'm scared, but because it reminds me that control can be measured and taken back. Some nights, I hear his voice in my head, calm and rehearsed. "You wouldn't have that roof without me." Now I answer out loud, "No, Jason. I built it twice, once with work, and once with proof." Neighbors drop by sometimes. Carmen brings soup, stays for a chat. She says her son told her the video clip was used in court. It was the strongest piece of evidence, he said. She looks proud. I tell her, you probably saved my life. She laughs. You saved your own. I just had a doorbell. The world eventually moved on. Jason's case turned into a headline, then a sidebar, then nothing. But the paperwork stayed, official, permanent, undeniable. I don't think about forgiveness anymore. I think about protection. That's what this part of life is. Learning that love doesn't excuse harm, and silence doesn't heal it. So, I take my walks, keep my appointments, and pay my bills with my own signature. When people ask how I'm doing, I tell them, better than before. Paper weighs less than fear. A year later, the noise faded. Reporters stopped calling, and his name vanished from the firm's window. I still live in this house, the same roof he once tried to own on paper. It's quiet now, sometimes too quiet, but it's mine. I go to group therapy at Cleveland Family Resource Center, survivors of family exploitation. At first, I couldn't talk. My throat locked every time I said his name. Now I help newcomers fill out forms, show them how to keep a log, how to store screenshots, how to speak the language of proof. People think healing means forgiveness. It doesn't. Healing is when you stop asking why they did it and start asking why you stayed silent so long. Did I love my son? Yes. But love without boundaries becomes obedience. And obedience in the wrong hands turns into a leash. The court gave me protection. The papers gave me freedom. But the truth gave me peace. If the person everyone admires is the same one who makes you afraid behind closed doors, believe your fear. Write it down. Name it. Hand it to someone who listens. Because silence is their weapon. Documentation is yours. If the person the town admires is the person who scares you at home, document. Save videos. Keep logs. Use neutral places. Do not argue, collect. Systems move slow, but they move when you hand them dates, signatures, and pixel timestamps. Did I love my son? Yes. Did love excuse him? No. He called control, care. A judge called it support and restitution. That's the only language he understood. Call to the viewer. If you recognized your life in mine, write "I'm listening" in the comments and say your city, country. Share resources where you live, social services, legal aid, elder abuse hotlines. And if you're in danger, tell a neighbor, tell a clinic, tell the police. Silence is their tool. Your record is your shield.